everyone. My name is Maxwell Dziabis. Online, I also go by HiBob7 or Soling Smash in various places. My pronouns are he, him. I do a lot of things Turnabout Musical related, but what's most relevant to this conversation is I play Larry Butts in the defense cast and Winston Payne and Yanni Yogi in the prosecution cast of Turnabout Musical Virtual Edition. And in Turnabout and Ace Attorney Musical, I am a part of the creative team, I'm the narrator, and the secondary ensemble. And I guess I could mention, since this is the Phoenix Roundtable, I also did play Phoenix Wright in a high school stage reading of Turnabout Musical Act 1 that I also directed in 2017. Today, I will be hosting today's Turnabout Table Talk. This year, 2022, is the 15th anniversary of the long-running Ace Attorney fan project, Turnabout Musical, and it's been a big year for the show. In August, Albino Squirrel Productions in Minneapolis performed Turnabout Samurai live on stage for the first time ever. And there are also two other major shows in production, which we'll see released in the coming months. Nerdification's audio production of Turnabout and Ace Attorney Musical by the MyFA Protection Squad, and the digital show Turnabout Musical Virtual Edition by Gero Productions. So in celebration of this anniversary and to cross-promote between these upcoming productions, we are holding roundtable discussions with the casts of TMVE and TAAAM, along with special guests from the entire history of Turnabout Musical, especially today. Today's roundtable consists of these incredible actors who have brought Phoenix Wright to life over the entire span of the project. So let's go around and have everyone introduce themselves.
My name is Danny Paparozzi, he, him, and I played Phoenix in the 2016 Turnabout Musical Live. I'm also the husband of Ari/Sarah, who I don't really know what you'd call her position in the TAAAM. Like, I don't know exactly because she wears a lot of different hats. But
she's a Turnabout Musical parent.
the parent, yes. I'm on sort of the periphery of it all. You can also hear me on some of the ensemble tracks in TAAAM as well. I've also just been around Turnabout Musical since I was, I want to say like 10, when my sister first got involved, because she was in the original like forums and helped out with that stuff. So I've been a huge fan. Oh, and also fun fact, I don't think a lot of people know that there was also a review version of the show that we put on in, I want to say, when I was 13. So that was 13 years ago at this point. And I was Cody Hackins in that one, which was really fun. And yeah. So anyway, that's pretty much it. Turnabout Musical is just awesome, and I'm really glad to be here with everybody else who's so awesome too, and have a fun discussion.
I didn't know actually that I wasn't the only one that had met my wife through Turnabout Musical.
Who's also Sarah.
Kind of out of the, another Sarah. That's right. So yeah, I guess I feel lucky about that. I'm Matthew Taranto. I guess I was technically the original Phoenix. That wasn't my intention initially. It was just to write music, but I had recorded some tracks for Turnabout Musical at the time. It was just called like Phoenix Wright the Musical, you know, on the forums, the court record forums in 2007. And I thought this might be fun, and I just recorded myself as Phoenix, and people seemed to like it. And I was lucky enough to meet Sarah Williams, who is our FF3 girl. Sorry, that was her screen name. She was one of our Mia phase as well. So this show has obviously been a big part of my life for a very long time. It's 15 years, you know, pretty much the entire history of it. You know, I've you know, not been active entirely then, you know, that whole time, but it's been a major part of my life for that long. So I'm glad to be a part of it and to see that it's still going strong.
I'm Richie. I use he, him pronouns. You can find me on Twitter at Jojo_Hobbit and Instagram at R Kraus in the middle of our street, like the Madness song. And I'm playing Phoenix Wright, shocker, in Turnabout Musical Virtual Edition's Miniseries, Defense Cast Miniseries, which is a recent announcement. I'm happy about that. This show has meant a lot to me, a whole lot to me for 8 whole months. And here's to so many more.
I'm Robin. I use they, them pronouns. In Turnabout Musical Virtual Edition, in the defense cast, I am Winston Payne, Larry Butts, Polly, and Ensemble. In the prosecution cast, I am Phoenix Wright. So I have been a fan of Turnabout Musical since I want to say 2010. So being here now is kind of like, what is my life?
And I am Ren, and I'm Phoenix in, I'm he, him, and I am Phoenix in TAAAM, and I am a Turnabout Musical noob.
Never too late.
Yeah.
Never too late. We're glad to have you now.
You know what we
Yeah.
call a Turnabout Musical noob? Someone who likes Turnabout Musical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Club.
I'll transition then into a question from Ari, which some of us have already gotten into it a little bit, but if you didn't fill out this info already, what is your history with Ace Attorney and or Turnabout Musical? And were you familiar with either before auditioning or being cast? And of course, in your case, Matthew, being there from month one, you might have some more
I kind
info
of
to
jumped
fill
the
about
gun
that.
on this question there. Sorry.
No, I mean,
Just talking about a little bit of my history with the games. I love the games. The original game came out, was it 2005, I think, to the DS.
Yes.
Yep.
My buddy had it and I played it. I played the first few cases and I went out and bought it. And after I played the third game, Trials and Tribulations, I enjoyed it so much that I wanted to, join a Phoenix Wright forum. And that's how I found Court Records. And that very month was when they were starting up the musical. And I've always loved doing musical stuff. My dad's written a couple. So that sounded like just a really fun project. And that's basically how I stumbled upon it.
and then correct me if I'm wrong, the process of you becoming Phoenix for the Turnabout Musical original soundtrack and the various castings was, from what I know from what others have told me, it's like you were kind of always just the voice of Phoenix through all the demos, and for so many you became synonymous with that character.
Can confirm that's what happened.
Yeah.
It was kind of a happy accident, I guess. I didn't really try to put on a specific voice or anything. I just you have just a few like voice clips from the games with the objection and the hold it and the take that, and I was just like, I'm gonna just say that and then calibrate my voice to that, and that'll be my version of Phoenix, I guess. But I guess it worked. People liked it.
I don't know how often you still, do the voice for Phoenix, but it sounds like exactly as it did in the album right there.
It's pretty much my speaking voice. That's my secret shame, I'm not actually doing a voice at all. I'm just being me.
You say that for many, your voice became synonymous with Phoenix. What I found is I also had the experience, I discovered Ace Attorney and immediately went looking for forums. But I found the Phoenix Wright Musical Project forums.
Oh, wow.
It was right around the time the Highlights album was released. And from that moment, from the moment I listened to that Highlights album, your voice was Phoenix's voice. And the same with everybody else in that soundtrack. Like, that is the voice that I hear in my head for those characters. I never thought I'd be a part of a production, and it's literally a dream come true.
Yeah, Sarah has a tough time playing some of the newer games where they have voice acting because she associates all the people's voices from the Turnabout Musical project with the characters now. It's jarring.
I love that.
It's not there. I mean, it's not Capcom's fault.
Should have hired us.
They should have hired all of us. You're right.
I guess my Ace Attorney origin story dates back to October 7th, 2021. I was sitting at my table in college, senior year of college, looking sad. And my friend said, "You look sad," and all but forced me onto the couch of my room to play this video game. And it was, immediately just wow. And as we progressed and I was playing this, more and more of our friends came to join in, and kind of like the original cast, we did our own voices for the characters, and to the point where it was jarring to eventually hear other people do, like Gumshoe and other people do Maya, because my friends were so associated with those roles. And then we were all playing. We got to the first case in Trials and Tribulations, and then it was Christmas break. And so they said no playing ahead, and I was not allowed to play ahead. So I had to, I get Ace Attorney nicotine patches. I watch a little of the anime. And I spent a lot too much time on the Ace Attorney Reddit forums where someone said they're doing a musical. And I remember a couple of months earlier, my friend had sent me 600,000 volts. I was like, oh, that's cool. I hope Phoenix is a tenor so I could play that role one day. And as it turns out, he Mostly is, yeah. But I auditioned through that Reddit post where someone said, hey, they're doing a virtual production of Turnabout Musical. And I thought, I like every word in that sentence. So here I am. Look forward to travel behind me.
So I already kind of talked a little bit about how like I got introduced because my sister got into the original forums, and actually the forums that Robin would have found, my sister actually hosted that website. So the megalomaniacal me or whatever, which RIP that. But yeah, and so I was a total noob at the time. I joined those forums, and it was very much like Diana was super into like the games, and I started listening to Matt's music actually. And while she was playing one, the first thing she did after playing Case 1 and discovering the musical was she went and bought all the games. So while she was playing one, I actually, weirdly enough, played 3-1. I played Trials and Trib because she wouldn't let me play the first game because she was working through it. So I played the first case of the third game, and I was like, this is awesome. And then basically Diana was working through her stuff. So I had finished like the first 2 cases of the third game, and then she got to Trials and Trib, and she's like, nope, and she took it from me. So then I went back and I played. It was such a weird order. I played like, I think 2-1 next. I was a stupid kid. I didn't know what I was doing. But eventually I made my way through 1-1 through 1-4. It took me a couple years to get back and play Rise from the Ashes, which is a fantastic case too. I totally fell in love with it. Played all the 3DS games. I really liked the ones that got translated last year, The Greatest Attorney and whatnot. It's honestly like one of my favorite series ever. And the musical was a hyperfixation in my family. And obviously, like every time, I just want to comment real quick. Every time a new Try song would drop back in the day, it was like an event, like straight up. Like I remember really when August Day came out is what it was. That's why when casting was happening, it was like, well, it's got to be him, because like that's the voice we had heard for all the new songs, or the first Samurai Always Wins demos. It was like, yeah, it was so stuck in our brains. I'm a huge fan of everybody here, obviously, but Try, I mean, obviously your work has influenced me for a very long time. So it's really cool to be able to have a conversation as a fellow Phoenix at this point. It's awesome. I got into the games. It took me a long time to actually play the rest of them, but needless to say, huge fan of it all.
So my story is kind of similar to Richie. I think it was right around when Great Ace Attorney Chronicles got like announced and the trilogy went on sale on Steam, and I was like, well, I might as well play these now. I've been meaning to. So I started playing them and I was like, these are awesome, and I got really into Ace Attorney. And then fast forward a year, I joined Casting Call Club like 2 weeks before the casting call for TAAAM came out, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. I was a musical theater major and I love Ace Attorney. Let's do it. So I auditioned for that, though I wasn't going to audition for Phoenix at first, actually. My friends bullied me into it because I didn't think, I was like, well, my voice doesn't fit Phoenix, so I'm just gonna like audition for tenor and like the children. So that's what I did at first, and then shout out to my friends for bullying me, because here we are. And that's my origin story.
This is a question from our dear friend Kate. Are there elements of your own portrayal of Phoenix that were inspired by someone else's take on the role? And what other characters or actors or etc. did you reference for inspiration when you were crafting your own characterization of Phoenix? And conversely, what differentiates your version from others? What did you bring to the character? How did it shape your performance? And then Matthew, if you have any thoughts on any of that, or if you also want to talk about the writing process of writing Phoenix or any other characters through your songs, I'm sure everyone would love to hear that.
Well, I think I got ahead of the question again because I just talked about how I determined Phoenix's voice.
Right.
For the last question, you had asked about writing Phoenix. Phoenix. So he's interesting because he's in every scene pretty much. He's like ubiquitous in the game. Like he's everywhere. So you gotta have the audience like him. But he's also kind of this kind of deadpan snarker a little bit sometimes. He's meant to be an audience surrogate, but he's also sort of like, look at this crazy world, look at all these crazy characters. You know, he's supposed to be a little relatable. So it helps having a template, you know, of these three. There were 3 games at the time, you know, with Phoenix in them. We got to see, you know, exactly what made Phoenix tick and how he worked, and just kind of like balancing that element of honesty and loyalty with, you know, also, you know, a little bit of snark, a little bit of sarcasm. I remember the first song I wrote, which was the Gumshoe song, you know, The Guy You Can Trust. And the whole time Phoenix is making these little asides, you know, after like every line is like, the chief will think I'm nuts if it doesn't already, you know, and he's like, he's doing this. And after a while, I'm thinking like, is this too much? Is he just like this jerk that's shooting down Gumshoe like every line? So, you know, it's always been kind of something I've been worried about a little bit when writing Phoenix, like how much is too much? It was really a collaborative process back then too, because I would put it up and Joel, you know, Shinkin-Rui, FF3's brother, my brother-in-law, who became Gumshoe for a lot of the productions, had his own, you know, takes on the character and on the writing and stuff, and he would send these suggestions. So, you know, it's a little bit of a tweaking process, but those were some of the things that I was kind of trying to be mindful of, you know, balancing the likability of Phoenix and the humor of Phoenix.
I wouldn't be shocked if they put this one in just to antagonize me, because I don't want to steal too much from everyone. So I haven't seen TM live. I haven't seen Danny's version. I haven't seen ASPTM's full Christian's version. I saw Samurai, but it's different source material because I wanted this. I've seen Robin by nature of being in the same show, and I've heard a teensy bit of Ren, and I've heard Matthew's soundtrack. I want him to be as my own as possible. I don't want to step on anyone's toes. I do, however, have a performance that I'm stealing from with this character. And a lot of this is a weird answer, so bear with me, but a lot of what I love about Ace Attorney is that it's so ridiculous, but also you care so much about these characters. Like, hello, small child who's also my legal aid. Can you turn into my dead boss now? And then I cry when she does. And this is the same sort of feeling I have towards sitcoms. So the performer that has influenced me as Phoenix Wright the most is Josh Radnor as Ted Mosby in How I Met Your Mother. Like Matthew said, he's that kind of snark. He is a good person, or at least tries to be. He's a straight man leading type who goes like off the rails every so often, and has to have the illusion of having his life together for the sake of other people sometimes, and Phoenix definitely falls into that. So I hope I can get people to laugh and care the way Josh does.
It was definitely hard not to be influenced by Matthew's version, specifically when it came to the delivery of some of the songs, like certain ways of just kind of like phrasing sometimes, and that wasn't necessarily a deliberate choice. It was just that his demos and stuff had been so ingrained in my brain that it's hard not to have some of that in my own performance. Although this was when I was like doing music performance in college, so I did approach the preparation for the songs the way I would do like repertoire for, you know, the schooling I was doing as well, which, you know, had its own process to it, which was, I mean, it's nothing special or anything, but, you know, figuring out my own motivations for things. One thing that I just wanted to comment on in terms of my own preparation for Phoenix is that I think my iteration of Phoenix has a lot of the, like he's constantly just trying to catch up to the world, like just kind of weary and always a step behind of everybody. And I have to be honest with you, I can't take credit for that necessarily as an acting thing, because that's just how I was in life at that moment. I was going through a really busy semester of college. It was a 3.5-hour show, of which, you know, yeah, I had to do all the scenes. I mean, I was only ever off stage for Decree of the Prosecutor. So, and if you watch TM Live, you'll see me flub some things, which I own. It's fun. My favorite is when I sing Reawakening and I sing I'll start counting sheep, and I say, or I'll start counting sheep. I just kind of like just work it in or something like that. But yeah, which is another example of Phoenix just trying to catch up and get back on track, which I think is a fun part of the game. As far as like his snarky stuff, I just want to say I love that part of Phoenix. But what's interesting about the musical is that we always see that from Phoenix in the games through like parentheses text. You know, like when he's being a jerk, really, it's always like his inner mind. And then in Apollo Justice, he actually says it out loud, which is partially what I love about that game. But the only way to make that work for a musical is to actually have him say that stuff. So I think the way it works, honestly, is a pretty good adaptation of that element of Phoenix in the games. The weariness, the weary Phoenix was what I think I specifically had a little bit of in my performance.
Conversely to Richie, who is going out of his way to not intake other forms of Phoenix. Of course, you know, I've been watching, I've listened to the soundtrack for years. I've been watching TM Live for years. At this point, I've been watching ASPTM for years. And so a lot of my acting choices are defined by trying to find a new delivery for a line I've heard 3 with Richie 4 different versions of before. There are some lines that I do very similarly to all 4 of the Phoenixes that came before me. I haven't really heard all of Ren's yet, but it's been an interesting way to find new reads of a character that I've had living rent-free in my head for a long time.
You know, the
So-
second I rap, I'm watching you, Danny, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
So like Richie, I have also not watched any. I've listened to the soundtrack, but that's like all I've done. I've listened to it once, because I didn't know it existed a few months ago. But I as a performer don't like to watch other people's performances before I do mine, just because I automatically start like comparing myself to them more so than using them as inspiration. So I didn't want that to happen. But I also feel like it's kind of fitting because TAAAM is kind of like a retelling of Turnabout Musical in a way, that it's kind of better if I go in like blank slating it. So I don't have the problem like Robin of trying to find a new read, because for me it's all a new read, or maybe I'll read something exactly the same and it's just, same hat. But yes, I am also blank slating it and coming into it fresh.
Our next question is from Ellie. When you were performing Phoenix, recording it, performing it on stage, filming, etc., how do you navigate the sheer amount of stuff you have to do? Phoenix is such a big role in terms of how many lines and songs. And you can also, if you also want to comment on what are some of the challenges of performing in the format that your version of Turnabout Musical was done in, audio or live or video performance.
Yeah, I gotta say, I don't envy the live performers on this character. I mean, it is a lot, especially the original version of Turnabout Musical. I mean, we had originally planned to make it episodic, like here's I don't think it was actually split by case. It was more split by day.
Yeah, it was
And
acts 1 through 4, where like act 1 was case 1 and 2. Act 2 was case 3, and then case 4 was the last 2.
Like it was like a 4.5 hour. I mean, it was like 2 Les Mises. It was a lot. So for me, it was like, okay, yeah, it's a lot of lines, but I'm in my room. I got a mic. I can redo takes. So I gotta say, it takes a lot of courage to get out there as Phoenix and tackle it. Even in its new trimmed down form. I mean, like we said, Phoenix is all over this play. He is in almost every scene, and he's got a lot to do in all the scenes. So for me, it's just one day at a time. Do a couple of scenes, send the lines in, redo lines. We were kind of winging it a little bit back then. We were kind of playing it by ear, and yeah, it was a lot of work. But like I said, it's nothing compared to going on stage and performing, I'd say. So props to you guys for doing that.
The live performance thing, especially the 3.5 hour version, I just want to comment that like we get comments sometimes on the YouTube upload that are like, why didn't you guys do Turnabout Samurai? And I'm like, did you want me to die? Is that what you wanted? Because it's like 3.5 hours was really tough. It's funny you bring up Les Mis, because I've done Valjean and Les Mis. Phoenix was way harder. Way harder.
Great.
No contest.
That was a 2, 4, 6, 0, 1. Like nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing compared to Reawakens.
No, for real.
Can we get Phoenix to represent Valjean in court? The crossing of the century. Danny is both roles.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You gave me. I'm gonna make that video. I'm gonna do that.
Yes.
If I don't do it, then I'm a liar. So I gotta do it. It was fun. It was really important to me to like try and do as good of a job as possible, because Turnabout Musical meant a lot to me. And at the time, I mean, I could be wrong, but it had been a little dormant for a couple years, around the time 2016 rolled around, and we did our version. So I'll be honest, like, I mentioned I was really busy, but the weeks leading up to it, and I was just really trying to like make sure I was running lines and stuff. I remember Final Fantasy 15 had just come out, which is a game that I was looking forward to at the time. So I bought it and I was like, oh man, I should really be focusing on Phoenix stuff. So I played the game, and while they were driving from place to place, I would be running lines and like working on the show. Obviously, a more honorable thing would have been to not play the game at all, but you know, it was tough, and it was a lot of like adrenaline. I think the biggest thing that I was scared about was the high A at the end of Justice for All Reprise after the 3.5 hour show. Like at the end of it, I was like, okay, it's okay. That's like one of my favorite songs in the show. So I'm glad you wrote it that way. Yeah. I was so like that was because my brain gets focused on like the obstacles. I'm like, okay, what are going to be the things that I need to, and you know, ideally you're so in character, you're not thinking about those stuff, but I was thinking about it towards the end of the show. But it did come out. If you listen, I did sing a high A at the end of that, and I remember that moment happened, and I was like, okay, I'm cool for the rest of the show. Like, I made it. I did my thing, and I didn't lose my voice in the first 3 hours, because a lot of Phoenix too, which is interesting. The monologues for Phoenix are also kind of like songs in their own ways. Like they have a shape to them and sort of an arc, or like a build, especially when you put the monologues in songs like in Who Killed Gregory Edgeworth, where there's a lot of like Phoenix, just big moments that are kind of paired with music, which I love that stuff. Shout out to my wife for really doing a great job of that. It was one of those things where Phoenix is really vocally taxing. For anyone who's doing like the whole thing, I don't know if anyone's ever going to try to attempt a longer than 3 hour version again, but I mean, definitely pacing and, you know, all the regular advice of staying hydrated and stuff like that.
My thing is, oh, that is a lot of lines to learn. Because originally it's like, oh, we're filming it, and I'll just make sure I go over the lines, because I have a degree in theater, but this is by far the biggest role I've ever had. And then I have, you know, 4 characters in the defense cast as well. It's a lot, but because I've been listening to the soundtrack for so long, I've been watching TM Live and ASPTM for years. A lot of the dialogue is ingrained in my head, or was ingrained in my head already. So that definitely helped.
Because I am not doing it live, I definitely have it. I guess it's easier and harder in a way. Definitely easier because I mean, I'm literally just sitting here recording the whole show, and I only have to spend like 3 hours at a time recording, which is nice, and I don't have to memorize it. I am also like still kind of new to like voice acting, and most of my, well, all of my experience the past like 12 years of my life has been stage theater. And so trying to perform a show sitting down to a microphone with no one else here with me is definitely a challenge, especially when I'm like doing the show like all out of order, and there'll be like parts missing and I have to like fill them in, and it's definitely a very different experience of, I guess the challenge is like trying to get into character and maintain that character when I am not on a stage performing this show. Because I feel like I should be, and I want to be up and doing it, but I can't. I'm gonna say that not having to memorize and being able to sip water throughout the whole thing it outweighs the cons. So
to get off books, the #1 person who helped me with that is Robin, because Robin recommended to me an application on my iPhone, which would read you the lines, and I would do that all the time. I would do it on the exercise bike. I would do it on walks. I would wake up early on vacation and just do it, just so it was ingrained in me. The other part of the question was, what are some challenges in the form you're doing? Because I have a lot of answers to that. You know, in most shows I've done, I'm just an actor. In here, I'm an actor and also the tech guy and also the lighting guy and you know, it's a lot of hats to wear. If my green screen gets slightly nudged, it can delay filming by a lot. And also, sometimes when I'm doing recordings, there's a little Manfred von Karma shaped devil on my shoulder who tells me in a German accent, "It must be perfect." And, you know, anytime I flub a word, I'll restart the take entirely. And, you know, so many takes are just redone because of that little guy on my shoulder. Even though as I read the show, the moral is the perfect is the enemy of the good.
All right, here's a question from Sail the Marigold. What is your favorite part of playing Phoenix? And for Matthew, if you would also like to add on perhaps what some of the favorite songs that you wrote or anything having to do with that, I'm sure no one would mind hearing more.
I really liked writing August Day because this was, I think, the 8th song I wrote for the show. And really, it was pretty much the first one that was about Phoenix. Because prior to that, we had Guy You Can Trust, who's a deadpan snarker. You had Samurai Always Wins. Phoenix has a pretty big role in the song, but it's Cody Hackett's song. Justice for All is Mia. Gotta Be the Butts, of course. Gotta Be the Butts. Decree the Prosecutor, Edgeworth. Okay, well, I'll Be There is kind of Phoenix's song too, but it's also, it's central in Maya. But August Day was the first time I could really say, okay, this song is about Phoenix. It's not really about the other characters. You know, they have chorus roles and everything, but this is our introduction to the character, our introduction to the show. And from that perspective, it's pretty intimidating because I think the game does a great job of just throwing you into this world. It's like, there's a murder trial, you're in charge, here's your goofy friend, here's your mentor, you know, go out and get ready. But the musical, it needs a number to start with. So I really enjoyed writing that. I enjoyed performing it. Yeah, just kind of looking into his mind and kind of getting the feeling of, you know, why we want to root for this guy, getting that mixture of like nervousness and excitement. And I think I just kind of stumbled upon the melody. My writing process is pretty loose. Like, I'll just tinker around on the piano until I find something I like, and then I'll build something around that. And my hands just kind of went like in an inverted chord, like boo doo doo doo. I was like, oh, that's nice, boo doo 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 doo. And I just started kind of playing around with that, and I sort of built the whole song around that. So yeah, I liked finally being able to write a song for Phoenix after so many songs for the rest of the cast.
My favorite things, I am heavily biased, but she wasn't my wife at the time, I'll say this right now. But Tomorrow at Last and Who Killed Gregory Edgeworth, I really love performing those numbers on stage. There's just like a really epic feel to both of them. And I already mentioned a little bit before, Who Killed Gregory Edgeworth had all those monologues that Phoenix had in between the chorus bits. And I found those really satisfying to deliver, as though they were their own like pieces, like I said before. And then Tomorrow at Last is just really dope. And like the way it ends, the who will win, I will win. I just think it's dope. I live for that stuff.
My favorite song to do is Justice for All Reprise for a couple of reasons. Coincidentally, it's the best song ever written, which helps. But it's also a coming together of pretty much everything everything that this character's been working towards this whole show. It's the moment he sort of becomes Mia for all intents and purposes. I love getting to sing with Ellie. I think that's super fun. And I love getting to put Manfred von Karma in their place.
The entire show is my favorite part. But the lyric is Tomorrow at Last, but specifically the lyric, it's far from over and you're far from alone, which I now have tattooed on my body.
Oh, wow.
So
I think Sarah wrote that. That's awesome.
That, and then I've not always been a tenor. I used to be mezzo soprano, and I always would be like, do I want to play Maya and get to sing I'll Be There, or do I want to be Mia and get to sing Justice for All Reprise? And now I'm Phoenix and I get to sing both. Just become a tenor. It's that easy.
So I guess I have a few favorite moments. Definitely Justice for All Reprise, because during the TAAAM auditions, I had recorded like baritone Mia, and I was like, because I like this song, and now yay, I get to sing part of it, like Robin said. And honestly, I enjoyed recording Reawakening, but I was happier once it was finished being recorded, because it was the last song I had to record, so it was kind of like the final boss that had to be defeated before I could finally rest. But I really enjoyed that song because that was the Phoenix audition song for TAAAM. And so that was actually the first song from the soundtrack that I had listened to. And I definitely listened to it many times. It kind of brainwormed its way into my head. So I was very happy to actually get to sing that because it made me happy during the audition process. I guess those are my moments.
I'll hack in here and slip under the radar and also say when I did get to play Phoenix, Reawakening was also my favorites, and I credit a lot of that to your work on the song Try, not just because it's a great song and a great moment for Phoenix, but also because as a baritone who sometimes has to play a tenor because he's been identified with a tenor character, Reawakening does really feel like such a great sweet spot for my own singing. So and I think that also has to do sort of with the way that you wrote Phoenix as well, where he's got sort of, he's in such a place where if you are a baritone or you are a tenor, you can sing him relatively comfortably in either direction. So I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, Reawakening, that was not, you know, it was kind of half my song and half Actorman, Justin Bryan's song.
Yes.
And it was sort of, I sort of retooled it slightly. I have a confession to make though, which is, it has probably the line I'm least happy with that I wrote, which is the counting sheep line.
The one that I messed up?
Yeah, that one. That's the same one. I don't know, like, I knew what I was trying to say there, but it never quite came together for me. So I was like, I would tweak this later. And then I never did. And now it's a permanent part of the show. So you're welcome.
I'm just going to say it's your fault that I messed it up then. It's not my fault. It wasn't on me.
Oh, yeah, there you go. It's a cursed line.
Let's do a handful of other ones. From Roof Dweller, what's another video game that you think would make a great musical?
There are other video games?
I know, right?
I guess similar answers then. Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney Justice for All, Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney Trials and Tribulations, and Super Smash Bros. Brawl.
We'll get to it.
Oh, yeah. Subspace
Emissary?
Emissary? Yeah, I could see that. I could see that.
Yeah, if only there was someone in this chat who has written Super Smash Brothers Brawl themed music before.
It's funny I'll bring that up. I'm trying to figure out how much I can say right now.
Oh, boy.
I check back on me in a few months.
Oh,
Check back on me in a few months. That's all I'm gonna say. I think mini games would make for fun musicals or fun songs for musicals for sure.
I don't know that it would make a great musical, but I really want to see a Ghost Trick musical. I don't know that it would. I'm not sure how well, but I'm envisioning it. I think you could make it work with some really clever staging. Yes, Max?
As the accidental founder of the original Ghost Trick musical project.
Wait, what? There's a Ghost Trick musical project?
There was one for that was plodding along for a few years there, and I joke that I accidentally founded it because I started the thread on the PWMP forums that led people off to start working on it.
I had no idea. That's so cool.
So I'm a very big fan of the Yakuza games.
Oh.
And yeah, and I think that the first Yakuza game could be made into a musical. There's already a stage play.
Oh, really?
There is karaoke in the games. I think it can work. It can be funny. And I think that Majima is a character that was destined for the stage.
Yes. Oh, man. Oh, like Yakuza 0 Majima too, like that whole character arc. I would love that on stage. Oh, man.
It'd be difficult because the characters are all anthropomorphic animals, but the Sly Cooper games, just because I love the characters and I love the story, and it's already done in sort of a comic noir, and I think that would translate well to the stage.
Final Fantasy 3/6 on the Super Nintendo I've always found it very operatic, not just because it contains an opera, but it's such a grandiose story and it's got fantastic music. That would probably be my pick. Also, visual novels, 999, you know, Virtue's Last Reward, Danganronpa. Those would all work. I don't want to write them, but they would work. I want to see them.
Well, Final Fantasy 6 was also your wife's answer, so makes sense.
Oh, there we go.
She is a Final Fantasy girl, isn't she?
Yeah, she is Final Fantasy 3 girl.
3 girl. 3 US girl, so that makes sense.
Okay, here's one. If you were not playing your current role in Turnabout Musical and or the Ace Attorney franchise in general, who would you like to play?
I gotta say, the part I had the most fun recording, more than Phoenix, was Larry Butts, and It's Gotta Be the Butts. That was so much fun to just let loose, because Phoenix, I mean, you know, he can be fun and stuff, but he doesn't just let it fly like Larry does. And I had so much energy after recording that I basically went back and improvised a bunch of nonsense and made a separate recording, which
Yes.
is still floating around out there somewhere. It's got to be the insanity.
So good.
It's,
It's still
But,
it's still one of the central pillars of our community. So
I
thank
still
you
sing
for
it
that.
all the time. It's great.
and then there's the Objuicy song, which is like the even crazier version of that. So, but yeah, short answer, Larry Butts, for sure.
Thank you for that, because
Yeah,
you
I
are-
mean, you did a
I
fantastic
cite-
job.
thank you. I cited you as my primary inspiration for my take on Larry. So
Awesome.
thank you.
I'd want to play Grossberg straight up. I want to sing Scent of Fresh Lemons. That's like that's my favorite part of the entire Turnabout musical sphere is Scent of Fresh Lemons. So there you go.
I also would love to play Larry. Just, it's got to be the Butts is so fun. It's very liberating to play a character that out there.
Also probably go Larry. Larry is much more a character that I would be typecast as, were I still doing theater. So I think it would be a comfortable return to that kind of character. And I just think it would be very fun.
In a lot of ways, it would be like asking me, like, what color hair would you want to have if you didn't have black hair? I mean, I feel like Phoenix is a big part of me, so it's like hard to really imagine, like, who else would I want to be? But then I realized, oh, just turn your thinking around. Not who would you want to be, but what would be the natural step? What would come after Phoenix? And the answer to that question is, of course, Mia, who by coincidence is my favorite character. I think Ellie, who plays Mia to my Phoenix, does just such a fantastic job with it. And I definitely want to, like, hypothetically pick her brain on that. And Mia's my favorite character anyway, so works out.
I'm glad I'm not the only person who didn't say Larry. I'm glad there was
No, Larry I was boiling that. Am I gonna say Mia? Am I gonna say Gumshoe? Or am I gonna say I don't know?
Yeah.
So don't worry.
This one is from Wendy Alice, our good friend. Is there any fun lore or backstory for your version of the character, for your how you think about Phoenix that we might not see in the show?
Yeah, I decided Phoenix was a vegetarian, which is really only relevant because his best friend bullies him into getting burgers a lot. And I think that helped me realize who he is. Like, yeah, he's that passive. He puts other people before himself. And he'll eat a burger so Maya's happy.
So I don't know that I necessarily have any like backstage lore or whatever about Phoenix, in terms of like the character himself. I was thinking about this, and the main thing I thought about that just kind of amused me is that I wake up in the show wearing like a dress shirt and my nice pants. I think maybe even the tie. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure the tie too. And I kind of do that sometimes in real life when I have to wake up early for something. I'll like have my clothes are completely laid out, or sometimes wear. So actually, no, in college when I had like church jobs, I would actually like wear my nice pants to bed sometimes because I'm like, I just want to roll out of bed and do this. So I like to think that Phoenix was just like so worried about being late that he just went to sleep in like his nice clothes, everything except for a suit jacket, so that he would wake up on time and be ready. And he was still late anyway because he's Phoenix. So
I don't think I came up with any specific backstory for him, like in my head, but I did encounter a lot of difficulty when trying to flesh out certain parts of the character in the world whenever I was writing songs for him. Like specifically in August Day, at the beginning, he wakes up and leaves and goes to the courthouse, and I'm just thinking, like, where are all these things? Like, what is his home exactly? Where is it in relation to the courthouse? Later in I'll Be There, well, actually, that was earlier when I wrote that, but yeah, and I'll Be There, they talk about, she's like, Maya says, I'm not gonna be sleeping here, that'd just be weird. And then it's kind of like, okay, is Phoenix sleeping here? Like, what are the arrangements here? So I guess you just kind of have to dance around that a little bit, because the games don't really make a lot of that stuff clear. For all intents and purposes, their lives are the courthouse and the crime scene, and we don't really have anything else. So I just kind of had to sort of assume he lived somewhere within bicycling distance of the courthouse, for instance. That sort of thing. It's a little tricky.
You did manage to fit in his difficulty with his goldfish and babysitting in his youth. Which are wonderful character details, and I'll be there.
Yeah, that
really,
is that story.
I'm really concerned that they had to pay him to keep him away.
Yeah, that was a little troubling, isn't it?
I have a lot of thoughts about Phoenix, but one that doesn't really get to shine, but informs a lot of the way that I act in Act 2, which of course is Turnabout Goodbyes, is that Phoenix is in the foster care system as a child, and that's why he bonds so quickly with Larry and Miles, and that during that summer between the class trial and DL6, they spent a lot of time at the Edgeworth household, and Phoenix came to almost see Gregory Edgeworth as a father figure. And so that informs a lot of how he reacts to learning what happened.
Of my Phoenix lore, I can't think of anything. There is Phoenix lore. I've done character work, but all I can think of right now is that my Phoenix hates spiders. This will be funny to people in the TAAAM. Yeah, to
Mine
people
too.
in TAAAM who know the spider incidents that have happened while recording.
Oh no.
That's my contribution to Phoenix.
The tale has been told of the spiders in the public server.
Oh yeah. There's lots of spiders.
Probably some lawnmower animosity in there as well.
Yeah, really hates. That's why he keeps saying "what lawn."
What lawn?
He hates lawnmowers.
Again, from Wendy Alice. How has Phoenix taught you to take flight in your daily life, or what does the character mean to you? And then on the flip side, our concluding question, what does Turnabout Musical mean to you? What has been your favorite part of doing Turnabout Musical or being a part of the Turnabout Musical community?
Regarding the take flight question, it's this is kind of a little more broad for the game itself, but it actually helped me a lot in formulating better arguments and seeing the logic of things. It's just interesting how it works, because you'll see multiple times in the game where Phoenix might make some sort of emotional appeal, and Edgeworth will shut him down and be like, "Evidence, Mr. Wright," or Edgeworth will make some sort of insult, and Phoenix will brush it off, and you realize that what really works in these discussions and these debates is evidence of what you're saying, backing up what you're saying. And that actually helps me kind of see, outside of courtroom situations, just normal talking to people and formulating ideas and stuff. There are certain, strong ways to do that. And I think that's really cool how the games actually present that information to the player. For the second question, I mean, obviously this musical has been a huge deal for me. It's really the first time I felt like a major part of like an online community, and I felt like at the time I was kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I was finishing up college, and I wanted to make video games, but it's such like a difficult industry to get into. You gotta have these either connections or some sort of foundation. And it was great having this accepting and warm community that was so excited for my songs. It was always really rewarding to find people that were happy with what I was making, and I feel like it helped me get the confidence to go on to make Brawl in the Family, which is a Nintendo webcomic I did, and then from there to make video games and Tadpole Trouble, one video game I guess. Tadpole Trouble they have for the Wii U and the Switch.
An awesome video game, by the way.
Yes, go check out Tadpole Trouble if you haven't.
Thank you. But obviously the best takeaway from Turnabout Musical is my wife Sarah, and of course the family that we started together. That makes everything, that's a life-changing situation. It's a meeting your soulmate over this funny fan musical based on a game about lawyers. No one expects that. Can't make this stuff up. So for that, you know, I'm forever grateful, and for the fans, I'm also forever grateful, because it's just been such a great part of my life. I'm been very happy to be to contribute in this way. So thank you very much.
I feel like that is a really good segue into, because I also met my wife Sarah through Turnabout Musical, which is also, you know, spoilers, the biggest and most wonderful thing that Turnabout Musical means to me. And you know, not just Sarah too, but like a lot of friendships that I made came from getting involved with Turnabout Musical. And I'll be honest too, when I was young, that would have been when I was homeschooled, because I struggled making friends at school. So that was like the first online community that kind of I was able to make friends in. And then I, you know, again, I met my eventual wife, became closer with a lot of people who were kind of around the project, or when we did the review show, met some of my people who would become my best friends throughout high school and beyond. As far as the other question, which is how has Phoenix helped me? Phoenix and also Apollo too, because I actually did a little role playing of Apollo like back in the day, and I got into that character's head a little bit. And what I kind of learned from both of them is that if you just keep going until and just keep saying things and trying to stay alive in the argument or in the discussion or in the profession, eventually things often, hopefully, work out. And I've found that to be true with my own career, being a musical theater director and teacher, of just kind of like, do I really know what this is all about, what I'm doing, whatever? But, you know, trusting in the work that I put into building those skills like Phoenix did, and just continuing to go until you get to a point where you actually are like, no, I do know what I'm doing. I think both Phoenix and Apollo helped me a lot in that way. But yeah, no, Turnabout Musical is awesome though. It's something that I hold really dear. I'm so glad to see that it's still here after all this time. Like,
Yeah.
despite everything, it's still Turnabout Musical. Like, it's just amazing. It's lasted for 15 years. I remember going back on court records and reading the original posts and like just like fanboying over them at the time. And now like it's just awesome. The year 2022, we're putting on new productions. I have a student who did a monologue from Turnabout Musical for an audition for a show, had no idea who I was. And I was sitting there and it was so fun because I came up to her afterwards. I was like, hey, was that from Turnabout Musical? And she was like, yeah, like being like so surprised that a teacher would even know about that. But the fact that like a new generation has come in and kind of taken the reins and gotten the same passion and excitement that the people had back in 2009. It's just the coolest thing. I hope Turnabout Musical continues to get reiterated upon for years to come. Maybe someone eventually will make case Justice for All and Trials and Trib. I'd be totally there for it as well. So that's pretty much my answer. The people I've met, my wife, and just the musical as a whole, and how happy I am that something like that exists and never got taken down. So
for me, I've been a fan of the project since the early days. And like I had an account on the forum, but I posted like 3 times because I also struggled with making friends and just didn't quite click with everybody at the time. And then years later, I found TM Live and the Discord. And again, didn't really, I was like, I will be happy lurking here. This is so cool being in a server with so many of the original dev team. Shink was there, and Max wasn't part of the original team, but from TM Live. And I was just like sort of in awe. And then it wasn't until Turnabout Musical Virtual Edition was announced that I really started interacting with the community. And the friendships that I have made in the last year since I joined the Discord and since I started talking regularly with people are just some of the best friendships that I've ever had. And then getting to play Phoenix, I have real bad imposter syndrome. Like I'm like still a little bit like, all of you guys are amazing, and I was originally just cast as an understudy. Why am I here? But Phoenix has helped me be more confident in a lot of ways.
The team community has been so awesome. I am a very shy person normally, and I definitely struggle with like meeting new people and talking to people. So joining the server was absolutely horrifying, and I was terrified of every single person in the TAAAM cast at first. But like, it has been definitely the most like welcoming and friendly community I have ever been a part of, and like also just a really nice experience doing this production. Like, throughout all my years of theater, there's always some weird drama going on, like within the cast and people being mean to each other.
Oh
But
yeah.
everyone is, it's awful. But everyone in this community is just so nice and like good at communication. And it's just been so nice to like I definitely can tell I'm gonna like be talking to these people for many years because they're just awesome, and I feel like we've all kind of created this really nice community together. As far as Phoenix is concerned, getting cast as Phoenix meant a lot to me, especially because I was not planning on that happening at first, because like Robin, I have a lot of imposter syndrome, and so I was also terrified to be here tonight because I'm like, why am I here? Phoenix is the first role that I have been cast in since like coming out as a trans man and like publicly being cast in a role that is not because I am trans, which just means like more than I can properly put into words, that I have been given the opportunity to perform because of my abilities as an actor versus my gender identity, especially a character as like iconic as Phoenix, and just well known, and not this character that is like well known for being trans. So that means a lot to me because I love Phoenix, though it is a little terrifying because I feel like I have been trusted to usher in this new version of Phoenix, for this community that loves this show that I am not as familiar with. So I feel like there's kind of a lot of pressure, like I have to get this right. Though that pressure has definitely been helped by the wonderful community, and I'm not feeling that as much at this point in the process. It means a lot to me. It means a lot more than just those words, but it's hard to, I guess, properly express.
Phoenix has helped me take flight in a lot of ways. Especially actually trials and tribulations. What Phoenix learns in that game is you don't always need to ask for help, and what I've learned is that it's okay to. Many of you have talked about imposter syndrome. You are not alone in struggling with that. Imposter syndrome is my next door neighbor. But you know, there's Phoenix literally, spoilers for that game, takes down someone who explicitly says you are not good enough. And that to me is the most satisfying thing, because he's helped me realize that guy sucks. You're all of you watching is we're all capable of way more than we know, and Phoenix is an amazing reminder of that. He's helped me become the version of myself I want to be. I remember when I was 14 years old and Marvel was putting out a casting call for Spider-Man. Like, why am I not Spider-Man? I like acting and kind of look like Peter Parker. If you don't know what Peter Parker looks like, I should do this. And that was, you know, because I wanted to be a part of something I really liked. I wanted to be a character I liked beforehand. And now I am. You know, I can look up fan fictions I dare not mention here and be like, hey, that's about me. My friends are reading dirty fan fiction about me. And that was that thought has crossed my mind many times. Just being able to be him helps me be me, and it means a lot. And people have mentioned this community, and it's magical being able to just celebrate this colossal waste of time, which is actually whatever the opposite of a waste of time is. With people, you're not half into Turnabout Musical. You can't hear this and not immediately love it. And so I think it brings out the best in people, and just to be a part of that and to meet some of the people I've met who have changed my life and who have let me, like Phoenix has, like I said, got me to do things I've never thought I could do. And this community has also got me to do things I never thought I could do. And it's magical. I say magical a lot when talking about this show, and it's not just because there are ghosts in it.
Those were all wonderful, beautiful responses. Thank you, everyone. Really quick before we wrap up, if anyone has anything else that they'd like to plug of themselves or share, if you didn't get the chance to do that already.
I forgot to give my social media at the beginning. On Twitter, I am at Queer Alpaca, and on YouTube and Tumblr, I am the Queer Alpaca. So
you can find me at Thousand Danny on Twitter, where I really all I do is tweet about what video games I'm playing, which I love doing a lot. And also, if you ever just want to talk about games, like specifically like colorful, fun games or like JRPGs with good story, whatever, I'm always down to talk about games. I don't have anything to plug other than just come talk to me about games.
And I am Renjamin_Rhapsody on Twitter. I mostly just retweet anime fan art, so talk to me about anime.
I'm Matthew P. Taranto. That's MATTHEWP as in pirate, TARANTO at Twitter. Yeah, I don't post a whole lot right now, but you can follow me in any future projects I'm doing right there. I'll keep you posted.
I said my stuff in the beginning. If you forgot, I don't blame you. Jojo_Hobbit on Twitter, like the Taika Waititi movie and the Peter Jackson movie. R Kraus in the middle of our street on Instagram, like the Madness song, and sometimes I write for whatculture.com as Richard C. Kraus and get yelled at for not including stuff people wanted to include on the lists.
Thank you all so much for sharing your time and your insights today, sharing your passion and talents and being a part of Turnabout Musical. For everyone watching, don't forget to follow all of the other relevant social media. There is a Turnabout Musical link tree in the description with links to Turnabout Musical's official Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Discord community, as well as links to the already available productions and the TAAAM YouTube channel. You can find Gero Productions on their website, geroproductions.card.co, which includes links to their Twitter and Instagram. You can also find Nerdification Media, which produced Turnabout Musical Live and is producing the debut audio production of TAAAM at nerdification.media. And that also has links to their Patreon, Twitter, and YouTube. And of course, keep an eye out for the release of Turnabout and Ace Attorney Musical and Turnabout Musical Virtual Edition in the coming months. Thanks all so much for watching. Take care.